Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the daily podcast in which we celebrate and discuss the film Raiders of the Lost Ark 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Christopher Marcus Mummert.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm Jerry Porter.
And I'm Jamie Unofficial Moby Lookalike Bennett.
I was thinking that and I didn't say it. Welcome back, Moby, for Moby Lookalike for minute 89. Minute 89 begins with Indy continuing his under the truck crawl, and it ends with Indy sideswiping the convertible holding Belloc and company. And Jamie, you in your filmumentary about Raiders, Raiding the Lost Ark, you have a lot of information about the history of this stunt and where it came from.
Yeah, well, the stuntman who did this death-defying stunt under the truck, Terry Leonard, he tried a similar stunt on the Legend of the Lone Ranger film, I think about 4 or 5 months earlier, and it didn't go according to plan, and the carriage went over his legs and cut tendons. And here he is 4 months later saying, I really want to do a better job of this stunt.
Oh, my God.
Could I have this stunt in this movie? So this sequence here was put in there because Terry Leonard wanted to prove in his macho way that he could do this stunt without almost killing himself. And it was also, in turn, a kind of nod back to the Yakima Canutt stunt from Stagecoach. A classic Western sequence of somebody going under the horses. So here he is just trying to prove his worth once again amongst his colleagues. There's Glenn Randall driving the truck. There's a pickaxe and shovel detail, as he says in the documentary, digging out the trench so that he can get clearance under the truck so that his nose doesn't get caught underneath. I think when I first saw this movie, I tried to get under my dad's van, and my nose hit the bottom of that van, so I feel his pain. But yeah, he actually, it switches quite nicely. I think the thing is with Terry Leonard is he's got that similar sort of physicality to Harrison, so you buy it. You buy that it's him. I think he's slightly more hunched in the shoulders maybe, but you just buy that it's him because he's, thank goodness for that hat. What would we do without that hat? You can see like red marks under the van, like there's blood there already from some of the people he murdered earlier.
Oh my God.
Jesus. I always wondered, what exactly does Indy attach to the truck chassis to hang on?
That's a great question.
Yeah, because I always thought it was his bullwhip, and
it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, but it kind of looks like there's a wrench portion to it or something.
It's like a leather lattice kind of pattern, I think, like on the handle of the bullwhip.
Yeah, does he just sort of wedge it into...
You guys don't have a bullwhip?
Yeah, well, I've never tried to drag myself behind a truck with it, so I don't know how that would work. But yeah, I don't know if I'm imagining this and filling it in with my brain, but I always hear like a metal click or something when he does that. Like he's hanging a hook on it or something. And you can't clearly really see what he's doing, but I guess it is just the kind of bulbous end of his whip.
It's like the tassel on the...
Okay.
He somehow affixes that to the chassis.
That makes sense.
And then he snaps it back into his pocket later on, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that freaks me out. Once he's not... I believe it, holding in place while he's being dragged by it, but then once that weight is not on it anymore, I'm like, oh, is that just going to fly off? I'm worried. Oh, no. Poor Indy, he needs that thing.
There's some great behind-the-scenes material here as well, where the documentary makers are asking Harrison if he's ever done anything like this before, and he says, dragging behind a car. Nope. Just one more useless experience.
And he's got that awesome line. He's like,
I was going to say, yeah, like, I'm sure it isn't dangerous. They would have shot more of the movie first. Yeah.
he's like, you only have to worry, once all your dialogue scenes are done, and they want you to do something like this.
Yeah.
Well,
He's a
I
dry,
wonder,
funny
would
man.
it be physically possible to pull yourself up from that angle? Because they don't really show that. They show them, they kind of jump over that. And
would you be able to have a mutt later if you did that?
How do you sire a mutt after being dragged behind a truck?
I think all you'd be able to have is a mutt.
There is actually a shot in the behind the scenes stuff of Harry. I think that is his leg, and I think there's like a shot looking down. He pulls himself up, but obviously didn't make in the final edit because I guess that's Terry Leonard again, just jumping out and around the side of the truck. He's angry now. He's got his energy back.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
And
I
this
love that
time,
determination.
I'm not just going to throw you through the windscreen because there is no windscreen. I'm going to smash your head on the dashboard.
Oh my god, that is so that is so like viscerally exciting when he does that. And again, it's just awesome.
Well, and I don't know if I've ever seen Indy this mad.
Yeah.
Like, is this the maddest he's ever been?
Like bloodthirsty mad. Like,
Yeah.
God damn it! Did you see what you just did to me? You almost crushed me behind a convertible on a truck, you bastard.
So, and I love how the Nazi dad completely targets up his face for Indy to kick. Like he literally chin ups into it. And it's actually kind of a weird and clumsy little second. He's like, "Oh, you?"
No.
And like puts his face, like, "Here you go."
It's only fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crying out loud. Well, going back a little bit, I think Pete, you started to say this that we all know about the trench now. But did you? If no one had pointed that out to you, you can see it now that you know it's there. But if no one had pointed that out to you, would you be like, it's a trench? He's all right.
No, but now that I know about the trench, I think that makes me more nervous than the actual scene because when you look at the behind the scenes stuff, the trench kind of curves.
Yeah.
And so whoever's driving that truck had to follow it exactly, or else he was going to bounce up and hit the.
Yeah, it was Glenn Randall, who was a long-time colleague of Terry Leonard's, and he wanted him to drive the truck because he was the only guy he trusted. Because if that tire blows or he goes off course, those wheels are going to be straight over his legs there, and he's going to be back to the Legend of the Lone Ranger, and another 4 months out of the business.
God. That's crazy.
Well,
I think he says, "Thank God I healed quickly because I get to do what everyone thinks is the most dangerous stunt in the movie."
and he really, like, as Indy is behind the truck, he's really fishtailing.
Yeah.
Kind of all over the place. Yeah.
I do like the way we've got Belloc and Dietrich almost climbing out of the back of the car as well. As this scene progresses through these minutes we've been talking about, they go from sitting, turning around, looking, almost kneeling.
Yeah.
At this point, they're ready to get out almost. They're thinking, wow, it's only us left,
Saying this movie's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I need to say, Sean Haynes and my friend Sean Haynes in grade school, when this movie came out, we both tried, we had a tractor, lawnmower back then, and we tied a rope to the back, and we're like, oh, it'll go really slow, so it'll be cool, but I'll be Indiana Jones, and you drag me behind the lawnmower. And it killed. Like, not only could we not hold on, but we just, it was like acorns and sticks and whatever, and like, let go.
See, I did it to my Han Solo in Bespin Fatigue's action figure on the back. It took the paint right off his nose.
Does that mean that you were not into the Raiders of the Lost Ark toys or action figures?
Didn't have them in the UK.
You know what? I have slim evidence that we had them in America. Nobody seems to be into them.
Well, if they were here, I never saw them.
Yeah.
Little geek side note here: I've just noticed that angry balding Nazi seems to be wearing Luke Skywalker's belt from the first Star Wars.
Oh my God!
Oh, Jesus, you're kidding.
With studs on, yeah. Probably had those trucks parked up in Tunisia still. They hadn't made all the way back to London, rooting around for props they could reuse.
It's a low budget film. They had to skimp where they could.
Well, when Indy pulls up next to the car, like he's gonna random, kind of like, it's me and I'm still alive. Damn you! I mean, Tote is actually kind of freaked.
You think
He's
so?
yeah, no, you can see he's a little bit weirded out in the front seat by the whole thing.
Oh, when Indy's gonna ram them.
Yeah,
you mean?
when he pulls up, like he accelerates and he pulls up and he's about to, it's right at the end of the minute, and he's about to engage him, and he kind of looks out the window, and Toad is actually a little bit freaked out.
He looks like he's trying to get a new SD card in his GoPro there. He's got his hand up.
Oh, how gross is the German dad getting run over?
Yeah.
It's maybe like the second
arms
grossest
and
thing you don't actually see.
Right over the staff bra.
I never really understood how that worked, because he falls, and at this point he's just got like a used, torn up grill.
Yeah.
And he has no hood ornament to sort of slow his, slow his fall or break his fall. And that guy's just got, I mean, he lasts like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But again, tables are turned. You know, he's sitting there and he's sitting pretty. He's like, aye, I'm going to speed up. I'm the guy who got rid of this raider. You know, and I'm all good. I'm gonna get a corner office.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're out and you're split in half by wheels.
It's such a great shot though, like both arms and both legs.
No,
Yeah. It's totally simple, but it must have been like kind of tricky to time exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a puke.
I watched. I grew up watching Raiders, and I remember buying the widescreen videos for the first time. It must have been the early '90s, and I hadn't seen the film for a few years. And I sat down to watch it with my parents, and I was kind of shocked how violent it was. And that piece in particular, I remember my mum kind of wincing and yelping as this guy's run over, and Indy's looking really pleased. Like, who's next? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, a lot of it's notoriously violent.
Yeah.
Especially for a PG rating. I mean.
Yeah, I think
but it's not dark, is it? The violence. It's just kind of gritty and earthy, and it's justified in each portion of the film. The things he does.
Yeah, it's not evil violence for the most part. It's like, just guys wailing on each other.
Well, it might be the bar might be higher if you're killing Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if they're really bad guys, and so you're allowed to roast beef, Arby's their face.
Yeah.
You're allowed to watermelon like disgusting noise run over them.
By the way, that face when he does eventually fall off the truck is a great little freeze frame there.
I believe, that look is awesome. Where he just like realizes, nope, this isn't gonna work. I'm done. He almost that actor, that stuntman, almost got like run over, didn't he? Like he
did, yeah.
There's that shot in your thing.
There's that kind of attached to the front of the truck. There was this kind of big, I guess 6 foot by 4 foot piece of plywood, so that when he fell, he just fell out of the sight of the camera. But he actually falls off the front of the truck, and you can see his kind of knee is at the level of this plywood, and his foot is on the ground. And the truck's, it's not doing 50 miles an hour, but it's fast enough for him to have got into some trouble there. So Glenn in the cab there would have been slamming on the brakes pretty sharply.
Yeah, it looks like there are a lot of shots in here where you can you don't maybe notice it the first 10 times you watch it, but later on you're like, okay, they sped that up a little bit. That's a little sped up, but it doesn't look like screwy. It doesn't look goofy or goony or anything.
When he does get run over, the truck really does bump, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. It actually I mean, I'm assuming I haven't seen any behind the scenes stuff of this, but I'm assuming he's just laying, away from the truck, and he raises up his head and his legs as the truck goes by next to him.
If you pause it, you can see all 4 of his limbs in front of the truck.
Right. And but it's timed enough so that
in real time
it gives you
really
the impression of it. Yeah,
it kind of works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing here, though, is Tommy, you began by saying, you kind of like this guy, this Nazi dad.
Yeah, there's something.
He has a vibe. He has a vibe, and
He
that's
does.
one of the things they introduce people like this along the way that you can. I think one of our previous guests said, was it Brett? They said, a little bit of the Star Wars effect.
Yeah.
Where they give you enough to latch on to keep it interesting and to really kind of bring you in. For the 2 or 3 or 4 minutes that somebody, whether it's the fracas-seeking bald mechanic guy, or it's this guy, or it's enough to really keep everything moving and keep you invested.
Yeah.
And then when they dispose of them, it's, I don't know, dare I say, satisfying.
Of course. Yeah, I feel like if this was made today, this character would have been introduced like 5 scenes earlier. And he'd have an eye patch and a scar, and like a robot arm, and he'd be like,
series,
yeah, we'll send him after Indiana Jones as a last resort, and he'll get the job. But no, he's just a dude. He's like pissed off that like a truckload of his boys have been dispatched, and now he's gonna take care of stuff. And he's a dad. He's balding. He's just a dude.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I think that there's something to that. Just like his hat flies off, and there's a little bit of like, oh, he's just a guy. He's a guy. But then he does such an amazing job of almost destroying Indiana Jones. It's like both a surprise and like kind of weirdly, you almost admire him in a way. You're like, hey, look at you.
I've just realised that shot where the whip engages into the undercarriage of the truck. It's a reverse shot.
Oh, like it's backwards?
Yeah, they've reversed
interesting.
it, so it looks like it's being sucked into the chassis of this truck.
Well, no wonder I was so confused.
Sure doesn't think backwards.
Yeah.
Usually.
I just use my bullwhip for sort of peaceful applications.
Well, does that do it for minute 89?
I did look up. I was curious about the license plate.
I looked it up too.
Yeah. Because when you think Star Wars, you think like TK421. You think of all these numbers that kind of enter the national consciousness. Yeah. But I've never the WH-11204. The only other place that I've seen it, if you've ever been to Disneyland, and done the Raiders of the Lost Ark ride, the truck when you come out of the ride has the same license plate.
Oh, it does.
Really?
Oh, wow!
How meticulous of them.
Yeah.
I found a site saying it was registered in Exeter in the UK.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if that's true, but one of the things I was going to say about this whole sequence, the chase, is that when I interviewed Wolf Kahler about his experience doing this scene, he said it felt like a completely different production because the stunts took so long to set up. For the actors, it was a much more relaxed environment because, they shot this film pretty quickly. Quick and dirty, I think Spielberg has said in the past, like they did the serials. But he said, it felt like a different production. It was a lot more relaxed. Mickey Moore was a really nice director, and he sort of says, well, not that Steven wasn't good to work for, but he sounds like he had a good time with this, and he enjoyed kind of watching the stuntmen do their thing for 6 to 8 weeks out there. And no dialogue, which upset him a little bit. I think he gets to say, when he beckons him in the previous minute, beckons angry Nazi dad to crash. I think he actually gets one line there, but apart from that, it's the melon smashing that comes later.
That's where he gets to emote. That's cool. I didn't realize you interviewed him. That's fun.
Yeah, he's based in the UK. He's just up in North London, so only a short train ride away from here, and he kindly agreed, and we went to a noisy coffee shop, or a quiet coffee shop that turned into a noisy coffee shop. If you listen closely, you'll hear some children crying in the background.
Oh wow!
Of my interview with him, but also I should say as well, on my site there's an extended version of that interview containing all the bits that I didn't end up using.
Oh, nice.
And he's a great guy, and he's played so many Nazis before. He's like,
I think of everybody in this movie. He's by far, like, so many people just have story. They just want to talk about this guy, about Wolf Kahler.
And he was in Band of Brothers as well, as a Nazi again, with Spielberg again.
Well, that's cool. I got to listen to that because I like this guy.
It's got a great voice. You know, in the interview, he was really leaning into the microphone with that deep voice of his, because his favorite work is voiceover work. You know, that's what he does even today.
Oh, nice. He reminds me a little bit of my friend Tarkin Cadis. Hi, Tarkin. He's got that kind of I don't know, lean, I don't know, face.
You have a friend called Tarkin?
I do.
That's amazing.
Spelled with a QU though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he failed. Well, Pete, can you please tell people where they can write to us with their wolf collar stories?
Yeah, find us on Facebook. We have a special page called Indiana Jones Minute and the Listener's Crusade, and you can find us at indianajonesminute.com. And if you click on our library tab, we have a link to Jamie's great filmumentary where you can hear part of that interview with Wolf Collar.
And please join us here tomorrow for minute 90. Jamie, can you close out the week with us tomorrow?
Of course.
Excellent. So everybody come back here tomorrow for minute 90 of Raiders of the Lost Ark here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Indy's mad.
He is.
Yeah, I think that's the maddest he's ever been.
He got punched in his shot arm. He's angry.
Yeah.
He's irked.